Hello, everybody, and welcome back to What Are You Chasing? I'm Jen, and I'm here with Crystal. And, today I think we are going to talk about how life doesn't have to be as hard as we make it. I wish someone would have told me that so long ago. I'm sure they did, but I didn't hear it because I struggled. Like every day was a struggle for me. If it was only a little struggle, that was a good day. And if I had only known that the suffering, that the seclusion, that the isolation, that the feeling that nobody else would even understand and could, that I was all alone. I lived in that for most of my life. I tried to cover it up with people pleasing, or my thing was if people needed me. So I had to be, I was the drug dealer, or I was the one that made the money. I was, people needed me. And that I thought was what it was all about, that was love. I made things so much harder on myself, not even realizing it. And now I see so many other people suffering and trapped in their own prisons, not realizing that they hold the key. And so that's kind of what we're going to talk about today is allowing life to be as it is and not making it so hard.
Different ways too. And same. Like I lived so long in such a terrible feeling, a feeling of insecurity, a feeling of self-judgment, a feeling of, you know, people pleaser sometimes, depending on who you were. Like to me, you had to be somebody to me. In other words, somebody I truly loved in my heart of hearts to people please them. Otherwise, I don't give a shit about you. You meant nothing to me, is the facade that I kept up, because in here I was struggling so bad. Really, in here is where I should say I was struggling so bad with loving myself, with wanting to be accepted by people, with, yeah, I can relate to what you were saying, Jen, about, wanting to be useful, wanting to mean something to somebody. And that's part of the story in our head that we tell ourselves is to mean something to somebody, and we never stop to see that the somebody we need to mean something to is ourselves. If we don't mean something to ourselves, then how in the hell are we going to mean something to somebody else? How are we going to spread that love and that kindness and that understanding if we don't have it in here first? In which case, I want to follow that with, we do, every single one of us, have that in here first. But there's times in my life that I would not have believed that, Jen, just like you were saying.
We cover it up. We cover it up and we get so much thinking going so fast, and we believe that. And it's like, for me, I would have thinking of not being good enough, not being, um, and then I would do something. I would be doing good, but I would do something and it wouldn't be that big of a deal, but then I would judge myself for it. And then I would add even more judgment on top of that, because then I was creating all the judgments that every other person were having that I don't know that they were having. I just decided it and made that up and ran with it as if it were true. And I kept building it on top of itself until I was like just buried in this tiny little dark hole. And I thought that's where I was going to spend my life. I mean, I would dig and dig and dig trying to get out, but it doesn't help when each shovel full of dirt, you're just putting it right back, burying yourself from the other side. And I see, I see everybody I know get caught up like that. And it's so crazy how the more thinking we have, like the view from which we can see gets smaller and smaller until we're just looking through this little thing. And we miss out on the big picture,
Yeah.
thinking that this happened to me and they did this to me. Well, they said that, and well, I don't mean enough to them, and it's all thoughts. It's all just noise. And even if some of that noise brings some truth, it's not the end of the world. Because below that noise, below all that piling up, is all this space. And in that space is that love and that compassion and contentment and kindness for everybody, including yourself. And here's another like paradigm little trap that we get caught into. Yes, we have to love ourselves and feel we're enough, but the more we think about ourselves, the further away from that we're going to get.
Yeah. Because the more that we do that, the more we're really just judging ourselves, or we're looking at ourselves and thinking that we lack something or we need something else, or, okay, I'll be accepted by people and people will need me and people will love me and I'll feel great when I do this. And that you're right. It's when we take ourselves out of that, when we don't think about ourselves. And I know that sounds like such a freaking paradox right there, right? Love yourself, but don't think about yourself, right? How is that possible? Really just taking yourself out of it. It's taking yourself out of these stories up here that we're playing over and over, that we're not good enough, that nobody's going to care, that why should I tell anybody what I'm struggling with? Because what are they going to do about it? How are they going to even relate to me? Because they're not me. They could never know what it's like to be me. And when you were talking about the shovel and you just digging and digging, I picture myself more of like hiding in the shadows. I see in kind of like a forest. But I would peek out from behind those trees every now and then. I'd be chaotic and bizarre and scream and dramatic and whatever. But I would make sure that that shadow was still covering me, because somewhere in that darkness I felt safe, which was just a facade. It was never real. It was never real, because until I stepped out and stepped into myself, my authentic, my essence, that's the more alive and real I've ever felt. I don't need a tree. I don't need a shadow. I don't need any of that bull crap story I told myself for 40 some odd years, because I am who I am. And I don't know where I was going with that. So there we go. Maybe it's just I am who I am.
One thing that kind of landed with me over the last week in the thinking about ourselves. And I was thinking about it and it's like, well, the me that exists in my head, that is the only place it exists. Because you do not see the same me as I see. And nobody else sees the same me that you see. So it's like I would spend so much time worried about people judging me and people seeing me. But it's like when people see me, what they see is not a full picture. And all this thinking about me and who I think I should be, and I'm not good enough, and I'm this, and oh, no one will. That is only in my head. Like it's all, the more I focus on me, it feels like I'm only bringing myself down. Like, because I'm judging myself, I'm talking about myself, and I'm trying to create this self that nobody else sees. Because their reality of me is different than my reality of me. And in that, do what makes me happy. Well, the reality of me is not my thoughts of me. It is the action, the love, the who I project. And the more thinking I have, the darker that projection is. I don't know if I explained that well. You look confused.
No. Mm-mm. You did. I got something to say. It's just gone. I don't know.
We worry so much about what other people may think, about if they will understand, if they will get it. And doing all of that, what?
I said, who cares?
Right? Like, it's all thoughts. It's all thoughts. When we just show up exactly who we are and are able to drop out of all of the thinking about, oh, are they looking at me? Oh, are they judging me? Oh, are they, oh, I don't know if I like this. I don't know what I'm doing. Well, I don't know what I'm doing ever. I don't. Obviously, most people can tell. And when I show up comfortable and not knowing, when I let go of, oh, what if I mess up? Oh, what if I don't do well? What if they don't like it? What if nobody watches? And I just show up as me without all of that thinking of what everybody else might think. It's I get to show up authentic. And if I mess up, I mess up. And if I forget what I'm going to say, well, Didn't really need to say it, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Unapologetically you. And I don't mean be a dick. Okay? That's not what I mean. I mean, no stories, no worries, no cares of what you think somebody might think. Because you'll never know what somebody thinks anyway. And even if they tell you what they think of you, it's still just what they think. It's their thought. It's their,
Version of you.
yeah, just like you were saying, it doesn't make it who you are. And just because we want to make a version of ourselves, like you were saying, that doesn't make it who we are. It's just when we're lost in thought, that's who we think we should be, or we think we need to be for something, usually, not usually, for something outside of us, is the storytelling that goes on in our head to say, well, you better act this way and talk this way and look this way and respond this way. And if you're going to be on this podcast, you better know what the hell you're going to say and what are you going to talk about and all of that stuff. They're just stories. They're just thoughts, the thinking we're getting caught up in. And I so genuinely say, who cares? Because here's the thing, when you spend that much energy caring about what other people might think about you, what are you getting out of that? Honestly, except made up stories in your head about what you think they think.
Oh, an identity crisis.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, those are fun.
Yeah. We're trying to reinvent yourself every so often.
And it's funny because we're set up to grow. We're set up to move forward. That's just, we're human beings. That's how we're made. And before, with all my struggles of, drugs and criminal activities and whatnot, about every 5 years, I called it my bucket of what the fuck. You know, I would have all this thinking and this trying to be this over here and this over here, and I was juggling worlds. And about every 5 years, my bucket of what the fuck overflowed, my worlds collided, everything shattered, and I had to pick it all up. And I'd be going another 5 years. That bucket of what the fuck is overflowing. And now I'm like 7 years in, and that bucket of what the fuck is always filled with thoughts about who I should be, who I needed to be, how I wasn't quite measuring up, what I needed to fix. Oh, I gotta hide this because nobody will understand this part. And when I stopped believing them, and it's silly and it's simple, but you see it that, oh my God, these are thoughts I'm telling myself. These are stories, made up stories that we get to live in, like the 3D with all of it, because our senses bring it to life. Our consciousness brings our thinking to life. And when we see it as thought, then, well, shit, I mean, it can play. You can have those thoughts, but you don't have to believe them. You don't have to fight them. Uh,
Yeah. Our narrator in our head, we all have it. A little, call it your little self guy. Your, there's always been those, an angel on one shoulder, devil on the other. to wolves that you're feeding, whatever you want to call your inner dialogue, ego. Um, there's so many different names and so many different concepts of that inner dialogue. That inner dialogue is made up from so many different places. It's such fiction. It comes from so many places. Half the time, the stories you're telling yourself, they're not yours. Somebody else told you that about you, and you're like, oh, all right. That makes sense. Totally me. I'm going to run with that one. And I like what you were saying about your little bucket of what the fuck. Years every 5 years. For me, mine was a little bit different the way, but it was about every 3.5 years. Every 3.5 years, now fuck it. It was time to self sabotage whatever my life looked like. It was time to destroy it. Usually, whatever relationship I was in, it was time to destroy that relationship and move on. I don't know why, but it was a pattern of mine for so long. And it was the stories of, unworthiness, not worth it, not good enough, not lovable, not whatever. That would just be like when something was going great, that it was like, oh, well, it's going to fuck up here soon. So I'm going to go ahead and just give it a hand and I'm going to screw it up now. All from bullshit stories I was telling myself in my head. Eventually, obviously, I stopped listening to those stories. I mean, but that was a very bad pattern of mine for the majority of my life. Stories that I bought into, that I identified with, and if I did not identify with it, I was going to find a way to identify with it because I belonged in that story. So we do this all the time so innocently to ourselves, as if we're not good enough, we're not whole, we need something to complete us, to make us right, to calm us down, to empty, to fill both. It's conditioning. I'll say it every time. It's what we're made to believe innocently, most of the time, innocently. That's what we're made to believe about ourselves.
Well, and I love what you were saying about like the calm when things were going good. You that's when you would self-sabotage, Always, always. In the chaos and crisis, I did so well. Like I calmed down, I could handle it. I was I was in my zone during crisis because everybody else was panicking and that would make me calm down. But when everything was going good, that's when I struggled. And I couldn't ever figure out why before. Like, we would joke about it. And it's like, oh, as long as there's a crisis, I'm good. It's when things are going good, I struggled. When everything was going good, that's when I struggled the most. And that's when, really starting to look at this understanding, realizing that when everything was going good, I would get my thoughts going. And my thoughts would ramp up of all the things that could possibly go wrong, how I was going to stop it if they did. Did I even want to stop it? You just thinking on top of thinking. And it would send me into this, ah, when
Yeah.
everything was good. And it didn't make sense because my outside world said, things are good. And my inside world said, oh my God, everything's going to fall apart. What the fuck? Ah. And that's how I knew thought had so much to do with it. Because in a crisis, in chaos, everything was falling apart. Everybody was screaming, and there was no time to think. There was no, you do the next thing. No time to think, no time to figure it out. Just the next step. That's all you need to know. Go.
Yeah. And that's the thing, with the suffering and the struggling and the people out there that just feel like they don't have somebody to talk to and nobody will understand them. It is just the stories and the concept and the BS that we tell ourselves. Sometimes we think that we're doing it to keep us safe because we don't want to be exposed, and admitting that maybe I feel a little bit off, maybe um I'm sad more than I'd like to admit, maybe I'm ramped up and anxious and I don't understand why, makes me different from other people. And so I don't want to be different from other people because from a very young age, we're taught that, oh, hey, what you want to do is you want to go to school and you want to fit in, you want to make friends. And it just continues throughout life, through the school years, into your workplace, all of it. You want the approval of other people so much that we bend at the will to others to please, and to fit in and to be likable and to be needed and respected and all the different terms you want to throw on there. When we don't need any of it, when we settle into ourselves, when we see that that is all thought, when we see that when we let go and just fall back into ourselves and trust. It's a big sigh of relief that you didn't even know was coming. It's a big weight that just comes off of you. And then, you know what? If there's a day that you're struggling and a day that, like, you're sad, that you have lots of options that, you know what? You're not going to get two thoughts to, because if you need to reach out and say, hey, I'm struggling, you're going to do it. If you need to just sit quietly with yourself and realize that you're just fine and perfect the way you are, and you're going through a little something and you'll get through it. So that's how you do it. But the most beautiful part about coming to this knowing and this understanding and just living in this way is that wisdom will lead you and you'll know which one. You'll know. You already know. You already know if you should be reaching out and saying to someone, hey, you know what? Maybe I need someone to just listen for a minute. Or maybe I just need a few minutes to myself so that I can calm my thinking.
And, it's a big, that calm your thinking. That's what got me. We use so many words and it can be so confusing at times. It's calming our thinking isn't an action that we do. It's a realization that, oh, these are just thoughts flowing through. They do not say anything about who I am. They just are thoughts that's happening. And when we see them as that thought, I used to say all the time, call it out, because We can see that we're thinking intellectually, and then we can realize that our thinking is what's creating our experience. And once we have that realization, even just a little bit, those thoughts start to fall away. They'll come up, and at first they'll be loud and obnoxious and like, ah, and be like, oh, you're a thought. And it's like, oh, damn it. And it'll float off. And each time it comes, it won't be quite as loud. It won't be stay quite as long. But it's in that's the biggest thing. And it's so hard because nobody can tell you. It's something you have to see on your own. But I can guarantee that if you get quiet and just notice, you will get the feeling of the observer and not the thoughts. That's a big guarantee, but pretty much.
But no, it's true. And when you do, when you get to see, when you quiet down enough and just get a little curious and, what if, right? The what if curiosity you turned it into, the what if Jen isn't bullshitting? What if we're telling you the truth? What if you slow down and you realize that your experience is nothing to be afraid of? I'm not saying that there's not scary circumstances out in the world. Absolutely sure there is. What I'm saying is all the stuff that we make up in our heads that scares us into believing the things we believe about ourselves that, you know, um, keep us stuck, that keep us miserable, keep us struggling, keep us living a life that leads nowhere, so to speak, except in our own scary story, tragic stories. I mean, I know too many people who live their stories as if they're true. I was one of them, living my story as if it was true. If we just take the time to just, and it sounds so cliche, look inward and get quiet. The guarantee Jen's making, I promise, with a glimpse of seeing that you are the observer. Ah, problems do go away. Problems do go away. Thought the patterns fall off. The stories, they're just, I don't know.
Well, and you know what? Test it out. Test it out. You know, allow your thinking to drop. If you find yourself stressed, tensed, in your head, overwhelmed, frustrated, anxious, pick a name, pick a feeling, and it's uncomfortable and you don't want to be in that, instead of the panic, instead of the I don't want to feel like this and I need to find anything and everything that'll make this stop. Because I did that. And I like 20 years pretty much because I didn't want to feel anything. Running from a feeling that I created. So next time you're caught up, before you decide to do whatever, Take a break. Try to drop below the thinking. Go for a walk. Read a book. Do something to get your mind off of that, what's happening, and then come back to it because you're going to see it differently. You're going to, that's why people say, oh, sleep on it. Sleep on it. Why? Because that's our natural reset button. We go to sleep, all the thoughts that we've been mulling over, trying to figure out, go away. When we get up, there's clarity. You can see things you didn't see before. And this has been at play our entire lives. Now we just have a little bit of an understanding of how it works and why. And the why is because it's all in our heads. Yes, it is all in our heads, but it changes. It changes. When we let go of all the things we've been holding on to, we can see better. That little tube that I was talking about before, when we let go of the thinking that creates that, then the whole picture or a bigger part of the picture comes into view.
Yeah. And it's a picture that's filled, at least for me, when we let go of all that, like you said, that makes it so to the point where we're looking like this. It seems like, look, do you see how dark that looks?
Yeah.
So dark. When we let go of that, there's so much more hope in that space. There's so much more. I mean, hope is one of the things I wanted to say because I think that's a feeling that people definitely get lost in. It's a thought they definitely get lost in, is that feeling of hopelessness. Feeling of, like you've explained 100 different ways already today, like the we don't matter kind of thing. Absolutely, everybody matters. Everybody matters. We all matter. Yeah, I think that it's hope is something that I would love for everybody to see, that there is always hope. And believe me when I say that I have been in situations in my life, in circumstances where it absolutely hopeless. It just looks that way. I'm not saying that things are easy. I'm not saying everything is beautiful and perfect. I'm saying there's always a chance. There's always another path. There's another step. There's another. I want so much for people to just know that it's okay. It's okay to reach out. It's okay to reach for the lifeline. It's okay to reach for the life preserver. It's okay to put the oxygen mask on in the plane. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? It's there. They're there to help us, to assist us, to aid us, to do all of those things. They're there to give us some hope. I hope that made sense.
Yes. Well, in life can be hard all on its own. You know, things happen. We can't stop them. It's gonna happen. Um, but the suffering, we can have pain without all the suffering if we just let go of the thinking about the pain creating the suffering. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to know every step on how to get to your end goal. You have to breathe. And when you get real quiet and let go of your thinking and just sit in the silence, you'll feel a pull that will tell you what it is you want. Not the you think you are, but the you that is life.
I think that's beautiful.
Yep. All right. Like, share, subscribe, comment. You guys reach out to us if you want to. Leave us questions, give us topics to talk about. Tell us what you want to know, and let us be here to help you. Thank you for watching.
See you on the next one.